Good morning. My name is Josh, and I'll be taking you through my life through an apple's perspective. Some of the things in this video are sensitive subjects, so if you are affected by what I speak about, you are more than welcome to leave for a few minutes if anything has upset you. Without further ado, let's begin. I don't really remember much of my earlier childhood. I guess it pretty much began with me, my mum, and my dad. Obviously until my siblings came along. My childhood was everything a young boy would have loved to have had. Loving parents, siblings who were annoying, but you still loved them. Food and a roof over your head. I was even lucky enough to have a PS1 and PS2 when I was young. Everything, I guess, seemed to be fine and dandy. Until the age of 11. That was the first time something didn't seem right to me. One afternoon, me and my parents were looking through my baby photos when I realised that my dad wasn't in any of them. And there was another man in the photos, in which my mum spoke to me and basically said that my dad wasn't actually my biological dad. In fact, he was only my stepdad. So that meant I had a biological dad somewhere else in the world. I guess at that age, I didn't really understand what was happening. I remember getting really upset and just holding on to my dad and just saying, like, "You're my dad. I don't know what's going on. Why is my mum saying this?" And I guess I just got really upset and confused because everything that I knew had been completely just ripped apart. I did meet my biological dad. I think it must have been 3 or 4 weeks later. And it was at my grandparents' house. Well, his mum and dad's. Which apparently I'd not seen since I was about maybe 2 years of age. It was nice to meet him. It was nice to see where I got my looks from and the way I spoke. But like I said, at that age, I didn't really understand the whole situation. And I didn't want to see him again. School was always a big thing for me. I loved primary school, even if I was a little chubby. But I loved my lessons and always came home smiling, as I knew my dad would always be there getting home from work just so that I got home. It's a shame at the age of 12 that secondary school wasn't as great. From year 8 onwards till 6th form, I was bullied by the bigger lads. I guess I was pretty much just an easy target. Or just different to them. I know that they were all like big lads that loved rugby and stuff, and they were just all the popular people in school. I loved sports, but I also was into maths and English and just all the other subjects that was just so interesting to me at that point. I guess as soon as they realised that, they just bullied me and it made my life miserable. I remember a brief period when I was in year 9 that I just didn't want to go to school because I knew they would do something to make me cry or make me so upset that I literally would go home and lock myself in my room and just cry. Because no one should get treated like that. No one. I somehow managed to get through the other side, I suppose. In year 9, it was the year that I found out that I wanted to dance, and the fact that I enjoyed it. We used to take dance as a extra subject every year, starting from year 7 up to year 9. We had a few months in year 9 where we learned about the way that Michael Jackson would learn to move throughout his dance numbers, and it intrigued me, and I just loved every lesson. Even if I got bullied for being a boy that wanted to dance, it didn't mean nothing to me. It managed to bring a smile back to my face, and it always gave me a reason to look forward to every lesson. At that point, the bullying just didn't matter to me, because I found something that I just enjoyed. Year 10 and 11 was forever a stressful time, with exams coming left, right and centre, and just really having to concentrate getting through school. The bullying continued. If the bullying wasn't bad enough, I ended up finding out that my dad was suffering from skin cancer. We thought at one point he ended up having an operation where a section of his ear was removed. Me and my mum thought he would have been given the all clear after we'd hoped that the cancer had been removed. That wasn't the case. It spread towards his neck to the point where he was on serious medication at that point, but he ended up having to have an operation. It spread towards his neck, and the operation was to have the lymph nodes in his neck removed. I remember seeing him after the operation with my mum. It was one of the worst things that a 15-year-old would ever have to see. I broke down afterwards to my mum. It was literally like the scariest thing ever to that point. He had over 30 staples in his neck from the operation. It was just disgusting, and it literally scared me. He literally looked at one point lifeless on that hospital bed. I knew he was breathing, but to that point I got so scared and I didn't know what to do with myself. It left me distraught, and I was scared. But we always used to say that you have to push on. It was hard on all of us, but we still had to push on. We thought that the cancer would have gone after that operation. It didn't. It ended up going back to his ear and started to slowly spread to his body. At that point, he asked the doctor to have his full ear removed, which for anyone, especially a stepson, it's kind of hard and a bit difficult to imagine your dad just having one ear. But that was literally the next step to trying to get rid of the cancer. And, we thought after that, this is the third time, surely it's gone. And at that point we really did think it was over, because we were actually told that he was given the all clear. It was a calm before the storm. A couple of months down the line, my dad was called back into hospital. They'd found out that the cancer had spread throughout his body, and they'd given him 3 months to live. I didn't know what to do with myself when I found that out. I mean, there wasn't really much I could do. I don't really remember much about my dad after that point, probably because I don't really want to. He was doped up on serious medication to stop the pain and suffering that he was going through, which I could understand. I don't think anyone would want to be in that type of pain. But the medication changed the man that I looked up to. He changed the person that I could call that my dad. He became dark, angry, and just a really horrible, shitty person. I knew he never meant to be aggressive towards me. There was multiple times where he did get aggressive. I don't want to go into any further into it because it does scar me a little bit. But it's hard, especially when you're that age, to really digest what was going on. I guess that's where dance and school used to help, and having friends that were just there for you when the dark times used to come over me quite a lot. We got into year 10 and obviously year 11. I got past my exams. I managed to pass all of them, and prom was all done with. Prom was just ridiculous, just so stupid. I'm so glad that I never had to do that again. But it meant that I got to spend a couple of months off before sixth form to spend time with my family, especially with my dad. I will always remember my 16th birthday. All for the good reasons, of course. My dad managed to buy me a new laptop, which I was over the moon with. It was one of the best things that my dad had got me. And I still have it to this day. I mean, it's very difficult to use because it's slow and it's just gotten so old. But it's something I'll never get rid of because it was my dad that bought it for me. And it's something I'm always going to cherish. I had everything a 16-year-old could have dreamed of at that point. Loving parents, anything gadget-wise from a PC and games console to a mobile phone. I had my own bedroom in which I just enjoyed being in. I had some of the best friends anyone could ask for. But it all came at a cost. And it was a heavy price to pay. A few days after my birthday, my dad suddenly became bedbound, to the point where he lost the will in his muscles to stand, let alone to walk around and interact with people. He then lost his hearing, and it was the worst few days that me and my mum had to see him in. He was just literally just wasn't the person you would have seen 9 months before. To the guy that used to smile and tell me that he loved me, to seeing a pretty much lifeless corpse laying in bed, struggling in pain. Just not able to move, and just seeing him in that much pain just made me just so scared to lose him. It was something that I didn't want to happen, but I knew it was going to happen at some point. His health was falling drastically. He was on a crazy amount of medication, to the point where he did tell the nurse before that if he was in any kind of pain, to keep topping him up with it until he was numb. Overhearing that conversation made me scared because I don't know what would have happened to him otherwise. And then 10 days after my birthday, it happened. I remember sitting with him and holding his hand. And my mum just had walked outside the room because someone came to see him. And the nurse was trying to move my dad because he was sat in an awkward position in which it was as if he was choking on his own saliva or choking on whatever was in his throat at the time. So he managed to move him, and he basically took his last breath. He looked at me and saw that me and Mum was in the room. And he went. My dad passed away on the 16th of August in 2013. At that point, I was destroyed. My world that I once knew was gone. The man that I looked up to was taken away from me. The person that I thought at one point would be at my wedding when I'm older to see me happy with someone that I loved, it was never going to be like that. He was taken away from me. No child or kid should have lost their dad to cancer, let alone someone at the age of 16. I remember having to tell my siblings and sitting with them and just watching their reaction. I had to hold the tears in for so long. I just had to stay strong for them, because I could only imagine how it was going to affect them before it affected me and my mum. I guess I can safely say that dance kept me going throughout the years without him. It needed to, because I ended up suffering with depression, to the point that I'm still suffering with it now, and I'm on medication for that. But I am proud to say that with a lot of my troubles in life, I managed to get into university and study dance, which is where I met 26, I think it's 26, never mind, young women on my course. And in general thought, they're all wonderful people. They really are. They are just the best people to spend 3 years on a course with. I know I've only been on the course for 2 years, but it's been a wonderful 2 years, even when I've had my ups and downs. Like, some of them literally never fail to make me smile when I'm going through a hard time, which is definitely what I've needed to keep me going. I'm surprised that they've put up with me for so long, even when I'm a massive pain in the arse, or if I'm literally dumb as a doorknob at times, especially when I'm having my bad days. I know I can be a handful. I will admit I speak to more, or some of them, rather than others, a lot more. I do try my best to fit into the group. I guess it's kind of hard being the only male in class, but it's never that much of an issue. I'm still welcomed into the class no matter what. I guess that from what you've just witnessed, there has to be a message that will come from all of this, which is symbolised by this apple. Perhaps just to say that the strongest people do suffer in silence, and that I try my best to smile before I walk into class, but never underestimate what you don't know about a male's past. Never underestimate that.